right, well, here's what comes of trying to do the rules without being able to understand them. And you'll see this a lot in my coverage of games, but it is actually here. I just couldn't see it. Sometimes my mind blanks things out. So alienation increases 1 in the chaos index level for each repression marker. It's like I didn't see the paragraph expended. And resistance results in the system unit flipping to its chaos side. So you're able to suppress the event, but there'll still be a problem of some sort in the area. Either overall chaos from too much government repression, or possible open resistance, but that doesn't actually affect the overall chaos. When someone goes violent, that actually probably strengthens the hand of the government in some ways. Passive resistance is best. Okay, so that clears up the one issue I had. I'm going to jump over to the scenario I'm playing. I haven't set it up yet, but I came to talk about this. So starting chaos index is at 80. There's nothing chaotic to begin with. So the idea here is the empire has existed for millennia, and nothing's really outwardly gone wrong, but there's a rot from the inside, and it's about to just blow up here. There's no chaos mobile units on the game at the beginning. This is my starting forces, and it's going to be kind of tough to figure out where to set them up. I get 5 nexuses. I'm definitely going to want to put one in the core because there's advantages to doing that, but I got to figure out how else to spread them out. The game, the base game is going to last 10 turns. I may extend that to see if it's following the apparent line that the game's going on. Yeah, it's a solo game, so some people play these kind of more competitively than maybe they'd play a solo opposed game. But I see no reason to do that. This game looks like it can handle being played with a lot. And my victory conditions, well, my victory points, I'd say survival is sort of my bare minimum, and expanding would be the victory. So in that time, I have to get to 36 victory points. Well, at this point, I have a tremendous number of victory points because I have all the provinces, which is worth, let's see, I believe they say 32, 8 victory points per quadrant, whatever that means. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the 5 here. So 8 times 4 is 32. There should be 5 more than that for the core. So it should be 37 actually. And then what about the chaos? Well, the chaos is quite high, so that's only 2. So that puts me at 39. So at the beginning of the game, I'm well within the survival range. The question is, can I hold it together? And what I contend is chaos is a lot worse than losing some of your size, although the victory points may not reflect that. That's what I remember of the game. If you can get your chaos low, you're not going to be facing new threats, which allows you to then work on reintegrating territories. All right, well, let's get started with this. Okay, so I finished my setup. Nexus in the core. Now this is kind of a shame because the core is particularly poor, but there's political importance to the core that exceeds economic value in the game. It would be nice if, in some sense, if there had been some rich sectors here. There's only a 2-pointer there, but I absolutely want this here because it gives me a +2 to exogenesis, or no, extropy. The other choices, I've tried to put nexuses where they hit some important and valuable systems. For example, this one, it's next to 4 systems, including the one it's in, and 2 of them are a 4 and a 3. And troops, I've stacked my troops and tried to get a mixture. This is sort of my main combat groups where I could build them. One alpha fleet, 1 regular fleet to provide it with more punch, and then one of these control groups. I feel like that is sort of the ultimate that I can do. You could, of course, stack up more power and I might have to react with more power, but this allows me to spread out my forces in a way that they can react more easily. This force probably actually, I should get rid of these SFs, and I'll spread them out a little bit more. In this case, I'm over here, although this isn't very valuable because there's a lot of sector to cover over here. And then over here I upgraded, well, in part because it was very close to where I had that extra fleet, and I feel like there's some stuff that I need to cover there. But more importantly, yeah, I can't think of a good reason why I'm upgrading this one in particular. I'll give the additional military capability over here. I could have put it here in the center. Although I feel the center is important, I don't feel like it's as vital. And here, instead of a control group, what I have is the IO unit, whatever the hell that stands for. Imperial Operatives, I don't know. Anyway, they have some special abilities relating to their loyalty, which makes them particularly Imperial Order, particularly valuable towards being in the core. It's a unit that I'm not going to lose as easily. If I had more of them, I would probably make my entire force there. The danger, though, is, of course, you want big units of the particular types, and this is not a lot of whatever, subversive warfare, psychological warfare, ops and such, not as the control groups, and I don't have anything as good as an alpha fleet there. I feel like, though, I'll be able to get reinforcements from everywhere. Now, at the beginning of this scenario, there's going to be 3 rounds of chaos events, i.e., the first round is going to be 9 chaos events. That may drive the index up, and then there'll be more. But the index can't go above 95. If it goes up to 100, I didn't explain this in the rules, I lose. The Empire has just fallen into such chaos that there's no way to control it. So that's why this 80 is pretty bad. But if you look at the scenarios, they all start on the high end. For the most part, 70 seems to be the lowest of these. I'm looking to see if I can see it here. I don't even see it here. 80 here. Okay. Those other scenarios, they represent starting points which can actually be reached in the game. So, I don't know. You know, they just give you a position of a particular challenge. Let's start drawing some of these and see what we come up with. So I've got to get 9 of these in the first round. The first one is Paranoia. All right, and what we're going to be doing is basically looking up each of these as we go. The player may not conduct any extra operations this turn. Optionally, additionally, this turn, the player may not purchase any illumination. The Galactic Empire receives 2 repression markers for each RP expended for them, however, instead of 1. Discard this marker at the end of the turn. So this is a big deal, which is going to come into play first, I think, in my expenditure phase. So I'm going to put it over there for that. I'm going to need a die here. It uses a D10. Okay, Rebellion. Determine a sector at random. All right, we haven't done this yet, and we're going to need 2 10-siders for this. I'll use these 2. Red will be the first die roll here. So we get a 7 and a 4 is 48. Okay? Let's find sector 48. I remember this being a problem. So 40, 41, 42, 43. Okay. I remember this being... So it's an empty sector. I bet you that doesn't come into effect. If it contains nothing, move the marker to the next higher sector and check for Imperial units. Okay, so we go from 48 to 49. Now, if this fails to find anything on the high end, then it goes on the low end. If it ends up making it all the way to the core and there not being any units, you've lost because you have nothing on the board. Okay. So these are just going to go to their chaos side, and the marker will be discarded after it's played. So unfortunately for me, there's a rebellion here. Now these are just rebels. They're not going to do much, but they might attack if I'm in the area with them. And for these, well, I got to throw them in the discard area. They're not going to come back into play. There may be a remix need if you're playing like that Scope of the Empire game. That's going to remove some of the excitement from the game if you ever have like the same alien show up or something. So that's kind of an issue there. Maybe they would be removed forever. Okay, so that's 2. I need a count of these. That's the problem. So I'm going to put the discarded one here. And I pull a third one. Expedition possible. All right. Play this marker only if using the optional expedition. Well, of course I am. Otherwise, remove it from play and place a replacement marker. Determine a sector at random, put the marker in it. If there's already another expedition possible marker in the sector, choose another sector at random. An expedition may take place on any expedition phase. The marker stays on the map until I do it. So we're at 0, 0. That's going to be 0, 1. There's going to be an expedition here. Let's look up expeditions because now we've got one on the board. Not a whole lot. I'm going to explain more than I already did. Basically, you're going to roll on this chart, find out what the expedition is when you attempt to solve it, and then you'll deal with the results as required. Now, somewhere or another, there's an expedition chart, AERT, and I don't know where the hell that is. I guess I'll have to find it at some point, but I got no idea. Doesn't seem to be here. Go to air. Roll on the Alien Expedition Resolution table. Alright. Well, we're going to have a problem if we get to that, and that I'll have to find it. Yeah, there's so many fucking tables in this game that... but this one doesn't seem to be easily viewable. I wish it would tell you where the table is. Oh, there it is. It's on the board. See, I mean, you would think an optional would be less likely to be on the board, but I've looked several times. So here you'll roll, and the expedition itself determines what the results are going to be, what the possibility is. And it's just a random thing. It's just I have to have a leader to do the expedition, and I don't have one at this point in the game. So let's keep drawing. Right now, I probably should have another die to keep track of how many missions I've accomplished so far, or how many of these I've drawn so far. So I've got 1, 2, 3 so far. Let's draw a 4th one and see what we get. Troops demand pay. You know, I don't think I finished setting up because I don't have any money. I'm supposed to have 10 resource points on the board. We don't know what my income and maintenance costs are. Maintenance, probably the game could have told me. we'll calculate those out when we need them and then try to track them on the track as much as we can. But we may need it here. I must immediately expend 1 RP for each Imperial mobile unit in play. For each one I fail to do so, there's a roll which might convert it to chaotic. Okay? Each unit in play. I'm going to need more dice, huh? So I'm going to owe 1, 2, 3. It's only mobile units I have to worry about. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Those have already rebelled, so they're not an issue. So there's 6 things I've got to kind of abandon. Well, let's look at my costs. Control groups. And star fleets are about the same price. And those are going to be my weak things. Which ones do I want to get rid of? Well, let's throw a star fleet out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now these suckers roll. And what happens on a 0 to 2, it goes chaotic. Otherwise, it stays Imperial. So I'll start over here. All right, I get to keep that. I got 2 here. I get to keep them. Oh, I spent all my money. I got 1 there. That's now a rebel. 1 here. Get to keep. And then 1 up there. That's now a rebel. The fact that these are flipping over, there's a chaos changes summary which talks to you here. So it's only during combat that conversions or destruction increases your chaos. Some counters are going to increase chaos on their own, and we have to kind of worry about those. So that was 4, now I go up to 5. So it would take a pretty bad initial pick to drive things up to 95 maybe, but I don't know. It seems like that. Pacifism. All Imperial morphogenetic attacks receive a +1 die roll modifier this turn. All military attacks get a -1 die roll modifier. This is in addition to other modifiers. If both markers are in effect, if both militarism and pacifism are in effect at the same time, they will counteract each other. I don't have a great place to put this. I'm going to put it up in the Imperial combat phase. So I think it only affects my attacks rather than attacks and defenses. Let's go to the 6th one. A usurper. Okay, this we definitely will have to look up some things. Determine a sector at random. If the sector has no Imperial mobiles, move to the next lower and keep checking until you find one. Those are going to convert to their chaos side. The usurper marker will be on top of the stack. It has a leadership value. Well, that's kind of a good one. I might want to let that usurper win, right? And then that force is going to be following the usurper rules, which will probably put it towards the core. So let's roll again here. 95. 9 is a roll again automatically. This number chart is set up so that all the systems are represented, all the spaces are represented once, and all the spaces with systems in it are represented an additional time. I'm not sure if the core maybe has another one, but I could figure that out pretty quickly mathematically. 07. All right, right near the core. No mobile units here. We zip all the way down and end up taking over the main navy here. Well, it's not going to be hard to cause the Empire to the usurper to win. It looks like he's got a shot at the usurper table pretty much right away. This is number 7. A Galactic Crusade. That doesn't sound bad. Let's see what that does for me. I roll a die. The Empire receives that number of starfleets or control groups. Discard the marker after it's played. Doesn't say where I get them. Normally, production can only be done up to the amounts of the locations of the system that it's generating it in. I'm not sure there's that restriction here. So I'm going to get 5, what did I say? 5 starfleets or control groups up to the number, a combination up to the number rolled. All right, I'm going to stop and try to think where I want and what I want for this, because I've got some problems I want to deal with. I'm probably going to allow the usurper to win, though. Before I go so far as to allow the usurper to win, I can try to prevent the usurper. I forgot about that. Let's do that. I don't know if I'm required to suppress if I have to. Probably not. Seeing how good this usurper is, maybe I don't want that, because he could have a good effect on here in terms of my issues. So if I roll a 5 or higher, essentially 50%, zeros or zeros on this. If I roll a 5 or higher, I get a good result out of it. But you know what? I'd rather try to suppress that. So I get 2 for a nexus marker in or adjacent to the section. I don't have any repression markers to expend. So let's take a look at the suppression table. See, some bad things could happen here. But let's see. We get a possibility of just regular suppression. So let's just roll. +2. So I got a 7, so this usurper actually failed. And I don't have to worry about him. He's in the pit here. Now the Galactic Crusade, I still have to figure out where I want to build things. I want to deal with these rebellions that are going on. This is probably my biggest, so I'm going to try to focus. Yeah, let's just focus on that right now. So I've got 2, 4, 6. This is an all-combat group. It's not going to move in and attack me. My feeling is, I was getting 5 units here, if I recall correctly. I want to use the non-military means to subvert them. In order to do that, I'm going to grab all control groups. And put them back here where they can move. Actually, I'll put them over here where they can move into there easily. Those rebels aren't going to go anywhere. They're just rebels. There's a possibility they might turn into an independent empire, though. That's something I got to worry about. Let me look that up to make sure. They are in danger of that. Basically, if they get a no operations in the rebel thing, which is quite likely, and they have a system there, they could convert into a new empire. That would be troublesome, but doesn't really affect my plans, because I'll be moving in and trying to convert that empire completely. So that'll work fine. And by the way, I can attack the force, the mobile force, or the system, or both at once. So I'll probably do both at once, just because I do want to convert everything there. Okay. Let's see. That was my Galactic Crusade. I think that's 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we keep pulling these out. Citizens demand reforms. I must immediately expend 1 RP for each Imperial system unit in play. Yeah, no, that's not happening. On a 0 to 2, the system goes to Chaos. A 3 through 9, it remains Imperial. I got a lot of die rolling to do here. I'll be back after I do that. Okay, the very first one was... I started in the core. I'm going to work my way out by number. Successful. However, that means I get a suppression attempt. I rolled a 9 on the suppression attempt at +2 for the Nexus. I don't have anything else that can add to that. I get suppression plus alienation. Now, that's a successful suppression, but the alienation means that I lose one, I get additional chaos for every chit that I played, right? I didn't play any chits though, so I think I'm safe here. Let's find that again. For each repression marker expended. So the fact that I didn't spend any repression markers means I'm pretty damn safe. I'm only rolling a +2 on the table because of the Nexus, which means on a 4 or higher I get the suppression. I can't possibly get into the resistance level if I don't use repression chits. Okay, and after that chit, we got a few more things in Revolt that we have to deal with. Kind of painful chit, but what I've done is I've drawn out the rest of the chits so that I don't have to worry about trying to count up to 27 or whatever. Whether or not the index affects the later draws, I'm not sure which way it goes there. So pulling out my 27 initially seems to make sense. I'm going to draw one more, and then I'm going to take a little break because this is kind of painful. Don't forget to smash the Empire. That sounds fun. Roll a die. That's added to the Chaos Index. 6. What is that? A radical anarchist coalition becomes prominent. Okay. So we'll go back. Let's see what these are. I can leave these face up just to indicate what's failed or has been completed. All right, I'll come back a little later. This is a very, very obviously, random event generating system that's very mechanically taxing. And just rolling through this, well, especially on camera, I feel like I have to walk away every now and then. It's kind of weird here because, all I'm doing is picking random events, and there are a lot of them. So I thought I'd kind of step away and maybe do them offline. But they're all the new things. This is what's kind of showing you the game. This is the mechanism, and eventually I will step away. Anyway, this one came up. Transhumans appear. We're going to get a transhuman in a random sector. We'll randomize as usual. 48. That'll be sector 31. And it can be any sector. It doesn't have to be a system. But it is. And now the question is, which side are they on? If it's odd, I get it. It's even, so the transhumans are rebel. Now, that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. Except insofar as if they end up joining, creating an empire or something like that, it would be possible for the rebels to actually maybe generate transhumans. I don't think so, but maybe it would. Otherwise, it's just like this sort of random potent thing that shows up. And it is kind of potent because our chaos level is quite high. So they're going to have 3/3 in both their values because they're chaotic aligned. Alright, I'll keep drawing and see what we get. Eye of the Cosmic Storm. Again, a new one. What does this do? Nothing happens. Great. Power struggle. And you can see there aren't all that many of these. It seems very rich, but the player rolls a die for each Imperial leader on the map. On a 0 through 4, the leader's eliminated. 5 through 9, no effect. I don't have any leaders. Web Raiders. Roll a die for each Imperial Nexus on the map. On a 0 through 2, it'll go away. 3 through 9, there's no effect. It's an underground organization that sabotages communications and computer systems. Alright, I'll go offline. We'll maybe not come back right away with the next event. Past the Web Raiders, I lost one Nexus. I don't remember where it is, but it's gone now. Should be down to 4. I seemed to thought it was over on this side of the board, but it must be one that was on that side, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know where I had one that's missing. Over here somewhere, maybe. Anyway. We got another expedition possible, and then we got the mutant. Now this is kind of weird. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you determine a sector at random, if there's no mobile units, it goes back to the chaos event pool, and you draw a substitute. Well, we'll pull that right quick and drop this back in. Oh, we got an alien. Okay. Biomech predators. Goes in any one, that's the one I have, there's multiple aliens. Goes in any one sector containing a system at random. If another one's already in that sector, you roll again. They're going to, on the alien expedition resolution table, add the total morphogenic value of all Imperial Chaos units in the sector, including parenthesized strength, and add the value of an Imperial leader. And you roll an effect. If it's negative, everything that's in this sector is destroyed, and the biomech predators stay there. If it's indeterminate, the biomech predators are destroyed with it, and if it's positive, they're just destroyed. Also, if an event would cause all units in a sector to be eliminated, they'll be discarded. So, they have to go in one with a system. Okay, so they're going to be in danger no matter what. They go to 48, and I guess we just keep rolling until we get one. We don't go in a direction. 48 isn't going to help. Right? Yeah, so I'll come back online a little later. Up that set of 9, I got a new leader. Some invaders showed up. They just show up at a random province or sector, and they show up with a random amount of force. In this case, it is an alpha fleet. They also have a leadership value, as the usurpers do as well. We also got the Cult of the Omnipresent Empire, which just reduced the chaos level. Time for another break after that setup. Pushed about halfway through the remainder of the events. Galactic Crusade, more troops show up. Empire Corps, same thing, one more unit. Robots, a pile of money. One per system. Just gets thrown at you. More invaders. Just more general chaos. But we did get to one interesting point, which is the Messiah. This is very dangerous. Okay. The Messiah has the following effects. On the turn he's placed, no military or morphogenetic attacks may be initiated by Imperials or Chaos forces in the sector. On each following turn, the area in which no attacks are allowed increases by one adjacent sector on all sides. That process continues until all sectors on the map come under the Messiah's influence, or the Messiah is eliminated. The Messiah doesn't affect alien conflict. During alien and conflict phases, you roll on the alien expedition resolution table, add the value of an Imperial leader in the sector. If it's negative, you absorb the alien absorbs the leader, he's just eliminated. Indeterminate, no effect. Positive, the Messiah gets eliminated. If the Messiah is eliminated, also, if some chaos or expedition event would cause the elimination of all units in this sector, if he's eliminated, he leaves the board. He's propagating a unified consciousness, preventing people from fighting each other. Why is that dangerous? Well, because chaos will cause the loss of systems, and if I can't fight to regain those, very quickly the Empire is going to fall to just about nothing. So this is something I really have to deal with. But there's not a lot you can do about it except throw your leaders at it. And now, I forgot to check this guy for Nexus Suppression, which didn't take effect. We had a rebellion over here. Another Messiah shows up. Remember, there's 2 of each shit, and I didn't see any prohibition against 2 of the same aliens showing up. There are prohibitions against 2 of the same invader. Maybe usurper. I'm not sure. Something like that. No, the kingdoms. The independent empires. And I got another alien, this probe. This one's kind of interesting. It's going to be just a one-shot. You roll on the expedition alien table, and within modifiers. The negative effect on that is it'll destroy any Imperial and Chaos units and alien markers in the sector. We get rid of this. And you also add to the Chaos Index, which could be, of course, very dangerous. Indeterministic, same as negative, but positive, you get 2 dice. The first die is added to the resource track, and the second die is subtracted from the Chaos Index. So this is a very interesting one. I might want to try to get a leader here or something, because, although it's probably too hard for me to do so, my only leader's over here. He's got to travel with units. Nothing's fast enough to get there, so I'm probably just rolling at random. The interesting factor is it can either destroy my Messiah, which would be kind of cool to get rid of at least one of them, or it could give me something good. So kind of no matter what, I'm getting a decent result. I've got 1 chit left. Let's take a look at what we got here. This one is Tech Trade Advance. Roll a die, that's going to add to the current RP total. So 7 more bucks. Unfortunately, these are done in base 11, which is not terribly easy for most of us to handle. But it works kind of nicely in terms of fitting in the space of the map, which is obviously why they did it. All right, now we go to the Chaos Operations phase. And as you can see, this was a big part of the game. Now, these are just going to get bagged. I'll put them aside, and then we'll start dealing with the Chaos Operations. You can see, though, the game provides, even with this, even with just one of these scenarios, and it has several, 6 I think or something, it provides a huge amount of variety here. You have no idea what's going to come up. You know that there's going to be a lot of chaos, and the other scenarios provide different, more directed variety. This one's really kind of a pull a lot of crap from the chit and see what happens, or from the chit cup and see what happens. The problem is, though, for all that variety, it all feels kind of the same. That was, I think, kind of my feeling with it. I played it once. It was not a very long game, but there's a lot going on with the chip pulls, a lot of mechanical stuff to take care of in terms of just the bookkeeping and everything. And it just never feels like the story's that exciting or tailored. Even with these other scenarios, there is a sameness to all this difference, as it were, which, there's just something about this that feels kind of like the generic space game, like Amoeba Wars or something like that. Yes, there's a lot more tacked onto it, but it just doesn't mesh together to give you a great story. It just gives you this kind of random story generation system. It would be kind of cool as a campaign generator for, like, I don't know, a Traveler or a Universe campaign, some kind of role-playing game set in space, to set the world events in place. Much better than maybe what I used as my standby. Good old 5th Frontier War was always kind of what I aimed for as my Traveler basis. Well, this would be kind of an interesting idea of for the background and backdrop of a campaign. And you could come up with neat things like get the players involved in a situation where they're, attacking an alien or something like that. You have to cope with the alien and not necessarily know what they're facing, or have an expedition to go on or whatever. But I don't know. Otherwise, it's kind of like rolling up characters in Traveler. It's just a bunch of random stuff happens. You have a lot of choices. You have ways to interact with it. And they're all reasonable. You're actually doing something. It's not like the Victory Point States of Siege games where you kind of say, I feel like I'm playing a game in a historical background, but I don't feel like my decisions are really accurately reflecting something I'm doing. Here they really will. But there's a lack of specificity to what's sort of happening in the game. Compare that with, I don't know, something like Freedom in the Galaxy, where everything feels very, very much fixed and set to a given story. Now, this may give you more playability just because of that randomness to some people, but to me, the lack of the fact that it's all very kind of generic feeling, even with these specific items like these aliens and everything, it really kind of plays on me. Now, of course, if I'm clever, this would have gone into my review and such not, but yeah, honestly, my thoughts come when they come, and if I remember it for the review, that's cool, because I think it is the key point that made me play this once, say, there's something clever here, it's interesting and everything, but I don't think, I just didn't feel like playing it right away again. It just doesn't give me that kind of story. Okay, so now we're on the chaos operations phase up here, and it lists the order that we do these in, but beyond that, we do them from lowest sector to highest. So this is going to be kind of a pain in the butt, because I got to work my way out looking for a usurper marker. I don't think there is one. I think we suppressed the usurper that was going to happen. So we're not going to have to roll on the usurper table. So next we go to independence. Do we have an independent kingdom? Not yet. We may get one. This is a danger. These things are dangers. They could end up because they're just rebels. I'm not sure if a rebel planet without a force can become an independent kingdom. I'll have to look that up when we get to the rebel side. But the next one is invaders, and we definitely have some invaders. So we start spinning our way around the board, and we hit one. And now we'll be rolling for this invader. Any modifiers here? It doesn't look like it. So let's see what they do. They get a 9. They'll move one sector away from the core and attack. So that gets me to here. And now we attack with both physical and morphological if we can. We don't have a strength in morphogenetical or whatever. We do have a physical though. So we get to see our first combat. Hopefully I'm doing this right, because I'm just faking it off the chart, but I think it's pretty simple. So I have +2 when I compare the differential between the two combat abilities. So I'll be on the +2 chart, and I have a leader, which gives me +2. I don't think there's anything else that affects, so we'll make a quick roll at +2 on the +2. And I get a 7. I defeat it. That destroys the system. I think it goes back in the cup. I'll make sure of that. I don't want to toss it in if it doesn't. And that's the end of the invader turn there. Now I'm going to flip this guy over, because I was spiraling out of here, and maybe I know there's another invader. I think he's out here, so I can do him. So we roll his attitude, and he gets a 0, which is attrition. Alright, let's look and see. Eliminate one mobile unit in the force. If more than one is in the stack, the force does not move or attack this chaos round. Okay, so these guys essentially are a failed force. Alright. I'm going to look up two things now. Where the system goes, I think it goes back in the cup. And with the rebels, whether these guys have a chance of turning into an empire. A brief look under the systems rule, I couldn't find any answer for it. I'm just throwing it back in. The game wouldn't make a lot of sense if they didn't go back in, unless there was a reshuffling of them, if you run out or something. Either way, it works the same whether they reshuffle or they go back in. I think you get a little bit more potential for randomness if you throw them back in when you're done with them. Okay, now as to the rebels, these do have a chance of turning into an independent empire, even if there's no mobile forces there to begin with. So now the order for these is again going to be from the inside out, and that kind of makes sense in terms of putting pressure on the player. And we zip around and around, and we hit here. And I'm going to have to use kind of a die to remember where I am as I'm zipping through. And roll a quick die. 5, no move, and attack. Okay, that means if I had mobile forces, I would fight, but I don't, so I keep going around. 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're up to here now. And we make a quick check on this one. No move and attack. We're here. 6. No move and attack. I need a low roll. I need a no operations to have it convert. This is a rebel. 7. No move and attack. So this is going to attack everything in the area. Everything in the area, physical combat is going to be 3. Ooh, this system has no defense. So I'm going to be at -1 on the combat table. I have no leadership, nothing. Nothing's going to help either side here. The Emperor, if he had illumination markers, could play him. So what did I say I'm at? -1. And I roll big. That's going to be a D3 result. So I get to kill this. And everything's smaller. The system goes in the pot. And these go away. And you can see I'm already losing some pretty cool stuff. That was a bad result for me. The Nexus, I believe, remains, but I gotta look that one up. Let me move this to here to see. Shit, I got the Messiah there. There's no attack there. I don't know if this was a 4-point system. I think so. I don't know. I had an AF and a CG there. Yeah. So it's it's no move and no attack because of the Messiah being there. Sorry. Okay, we run to this one, and here we're going to see the same kind of possibility. 1, this would be a no ops. If I had a planet here, I could attack it. I can flip this back up. We're not on them anymore. And now we're at the other end. So we kick over to here. And you can see this is kind of a tedious process. 1 is a no-op. I don't have the planet, so nothing happens. Keep spinning around, I get to here. 8, that means I don't turn into an empire. Up here, this one is probably my biggest danger. 9, no move and attack, so there's no problem there. This one, 9, no move and attack. And we're out of all the NPC type things. Now we go to a usurpation phase. There's no usurpation going on. Had this not been suppressed, there would be a roll immediately to see if the government changes hands. Chaos colonization. There are no new kingdoms, so there's no possibility of that. Independent empire recruiting. No independent empires were created, so that doesn't happen. Imperial resource collection. At this point, I'm going to be counting all my systems, and if I had colony ships and world ships and such not, those would also throw in. I'll mark that down as my income, and then I'll add that income to my resource phase. And then I'll be going to the expenditures where, well, I figure out what my maintenance costs are, pay those if I wish, and then buy any new units I want. I've gone through the first stage of this kind of heavy bookkeeping aspect of the game, just counting up the income of all the planetary systems. I think I got it right, but I hate counting. Okay, and this is a game where you've got to do a lot of that. It's just an irritating factor. You can say, well, you like some games that have heavy counting. Yeah, that's true. Something like EU, for example. And this might not be so bad if I'm able to maintain those tracks, but I probably will feel like I'm not. Anyhow, some people will be more capable of coping with that side of things. Now I'm at the expenditure, and here's where I have a gripe having to do perhaps with the components. I'm going to be looking through all of the units on the board. And in order to figure out how much I have to pay for them, at least until I get used to the game, I have to look here, see what the unit is, then track it over to the expenditure chart. And there are enough units and enough spread out that it's going to be even more annoying to count them than it was the systems. The systems have the number right on them. It would be nice to have a maintenance number on all these counters. I'm sure I'll get used to it. There aren't that many different types of counters to worry about that have a maintenance cost. Regular star fleets are 1, control groups are 1. I'll probably be able to handle this. The Order and the Alpha fleets are 3 and 2 respectively, and a Nexus is 2. So I can probably handle remembering that. But it is, you know, a little burden that I'd rather not have to deal with. And the total maintenance cost has come out to 37, a little bit less than my income. I'm not going to be making a lot each turn off of this unless my navies start defecting or something along those lines, and quite a few of them did. Imagine what the income would have been before, or the cost would have been before. Of course, the income would have been higher as well. You can already see 3, it's not a system, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 points below, but I think I lost far more units, so it was probably in about equilibrium previously. And now comes what I consider the hardest part of a game like this. I'm going to have to take into account what I can build where, because I can pretty much build anywhere on the board, but I'm limited to how many in each place. And this is all very, believable and acceptable. It's just, I can see where it's kind of scaring me to have to do it. And I know a lot of players may not want to have to do that. So you have a lot of balancing. And this is really where the advanced rules come into play. So the advanced rules, for the most part, give you more options. They actually probably make the game easier to play in terms of easier to win. But what they're doing is they're going to open up things that you wouldn't otherwise have available to you. For example, the transhumans, the nexuses, Nexi, I think so. The different chits that you could influence stuff with. They give you more levers to play with, which makes your decision making more complicated, and therefore it's a more advanced game. But it actually probably makes the game easier. There are very few advanced rules that make your job harder as a player. I like that. I don't mind that, advanced rules shouldn't necessarily make the game more difficult, but the problem that I have with it is, of course, once you kind of get the hang of the game, playing with the advanced rules probably makes it easier to win. Maybe some of the later scenarios are tougher because they start off with a fixed, problem in hand, as opposed to just, hey, you got a bunch of chaos coming up your ass. It doesn't look that way, though. All right. So, yeah, I'll come back and tell you what I decided. I am modified by this paranoia chit, though. And then I also have this silly pacifism. These are two things to really keep in mind, and maybe I should have kept them in mind otherwise. So pacifism means my morphogenetic attacks are better, which is kind of cool because I bought a lot of control groups, or I took a lot of control groups as my freebies. The paranoia says I'm not going to get an extirpate operation, which is something I would have liked to save money for. Reducing chaos is probably the most important thing that you can do in the game, at least early in the game. Later, you may need to get some victory points off of systems. And then, let's see. I'm not allowed illumination, but repression markers are cheaper. Now, I don't like repression because it opens me up to if I use them for suppression results, it opens me up to causing problems with my suppression. It's more likely I'll suppress an issue, but it's also very likely that I'll end up causing issues for myself. And there was another, I'm trying to remember what else those damn markers were good for. They have another use, if I'm right. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you in here. I think it's the illumination ones that have multiple uses. It doesn't tell you in the illumination repression markers what you can do with the damn things. Pain in the butt. Most of the rules work okay. That's a place where I think an extra few words would have been very, very helpful. The other problem with the rules is just that you read them and you don't have a real idea of how to play the game from them. But that's okay because it is something where you're usually not going to be spending a lot of time formulating a strategy. At this point, you are though. But most of the game, you're just following, oh, where does something go? What happens? What's happening to me? So you get a lot of that. And when it comes to formulating your strategy, though, you need to be able to know things like this when you're trying to figure out what to buy. So then you're stuck, okay, well, I remember this has effects on certain tables. Now I'll look for the tables that it's on, and I'm not sure if it has more effects because I can only look where I remember unless I want to read the entire rule book every time I want to look that up. This is something that I screwed up before. I was looking up, hey, how do Nexus counters get destroyed? Because I'm thinking about buying one. Well, it turns out they get destroyed if something converts in the same space as them. So this one couldn't have existed still. So I'm getting rid of that, and that's going to give me a couple of resource points back. I've been spending some of my resource points. I want to buy a lot of these control groups. I think they're very effective. And I'm also looking into getting leaders on the map because I feel like die roll modifiers are effective. This turn I have a bonus because of the pacifism on my morphogenetic, and to tell you the truth, I like the results of morphogenetic combat a lot better, and I get to choose which one I use. What's the danger of these control groups as opposed to using other types of units? Well, the big danger is that they're not resistant to attack, so I may want to also buy some things that can actually fight. Just because I do have some military threats on me, like these invaders, which I've got to deal with. Now I've also got to look to see, hey, can I convert invaders to my side? That may also affect my decisions. Now last turn I lost like my 10 resource points, so I want to make sure that I maintain that kind of buffer because it could have been a lot uglier than it was, right? There were a couple of events in there that drained resource points, so I'm holding on to that many. I bought myself a leader and a CG. Now this is the first turn of these messiahs, so they only affect the space they're in, and that makes things kind of safe for me right now. I can try to get these transhumans under my control, and that'll allow me to build transhumans next turn, which I see as a potential value. The biggest thing is getting rid of that really mondo potent thing that, if it manages to turn itself into an independent empire, could be a real problem in this whole region. Of course, the Messiah will be there, but I may not. Territories may fall to the independent empire before the Messiah pacifies things. As I said, I went with the control groups because they give me, I have a bonus towards them this turn. That was a leader I had already. And basically I'm looking at converting as many things as I can. I like the morphogenetic stuff. Now we go to colonization. I have no colony ships. I thought about building some because one cool thing about colony ships is, even the world ships, they don't have a maintenance cost, but they have a production value. And they're actually probably the coolest thing because they have good combat values and production. I'm not at the point though where I can afford that kind of luxury, even though it would improve my production. I'm looking at converting some of my planets back. Of course, that makes extropy more expensive. I also bought myself a handful of repression chits. They're cheap right now. I might as well pick them up. I'm not sure I really want to use them, but remember 9/11 and all that. And since I bought this, I think I can put this aside into the discard pile. It doesn't go back in the cup. I gotta be careful. I may have thrown some back in. I also threw all the planets back on top of the leaders, which caused me a problem when I needed a leader. I had to sort through them. And I've got plans for going after maybe this expedition here. So I built myself a leader there. I'm going to kind of let the Messiahs do their thing and hope they burn themselves out. Now we go to Imperial Movement, and I'll take care of that a little bit after.